Severance returned this week with the first episode of Season 2, and I think it's safe to say that the show is definitely as confusing as we all thought it would be. Following on from the events that occurred in the Season 1 finale, where Mark, Helly and Irving all woke up in their Outie's bodies, this episode was apparently set 5 months after it happened, following them all being hailed as heroes. With things not quite appearing as they seem and there potentially being an imposter amongst the group, let's break down this first episode and explain all of the important details. Here is Severance Season 2 Episode 1 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. What's going on with Helly? With Dylan, Irving and Helly not appearing until partway through the episode, and it only occurring after Milchik and the board realised that Mark wasn't going to play ball with his new colleagues since he was demanding to be with his former colleagues. With them all returning and being open and honest about what happened whilst they're in their Outie's world, we actually saw Helly lie about what happened when she awoke. She didn't tell the truth about the fact that she was the daughter of James Egan and was in there as part of an experiment. She instead said that she woke up in an apartment on her own and saw a gardener during the evening, something which Irving was confused by because it genuinely sounded like a ridiculous scenario. At first, I originally thought she said that because she didn't want to be honest and have them view her differently, with her outie being the daughter of the CEO of Lumen. So instead, on the other side, it could be more so leaning into the fact that she's an outie and she's gone in there as a rat to infiltrate the group from within, and she didn't think of an actual scenario because she didn't expect to be asked. One thing that also makes me think this is something that's very loose, but it's based on when Mark was with his new colleagues. Colours are so important in this show, and blue was always part of somebody's work attire, whether it be a jacket, a dress, a tie or a shirt. However, the only character that we met on the second appearance that didn't have any blue on them was Gwendolyn, which was Helly's replacement. She was wearing red, making her the odd one out completely. With her being Helly's replacement in the dynamic and Gwendolyn being the odd one out, I feel like that could be carried through into the main group, and it could be hinting at there being an odd one out amongst them all, which could be the fact that everybody is an Innie other than Helly. As well, when you compare the way that Helly turned on her computer compared to Mark and also Milchik, she struggled for a brief moment in not knowing where the button was. Whereas Mark had no issues whatsoever, and moments before Helly pressed her switch, Milchik had no problems either. The amount of times they've pressed that switch, it's something that you wouldn't struggle to do because it's been done so many times. Try it on your own computer. I doubt you'll miss it. Helly also saying how both Innie and Outies are completely different people and are not part of the same world kind of feels like it could be born from the fact that the Innie version of her tried to jeopardize everything and ruin the family's name. Something that her Outie wouldn't advocate for at all. So there's definitely more to come with Helly, and the fact that she could well end up reporting back on everything that's going on. That could be why the board decided to reunite Mark and bring back all of his former colleagues, because it would be in their best interest to get the information directly from the horse's mouth and somebody that they can trust. Whilst on the topic of there potentially being a rat and somebody being a bit different, we also saw that Dylan was shown a development of a new area, which was going to be the Outie family visitation suite. Mr. Milchik told Dylan to keep it to himself because all of the others were single in their Outie world. So I feel like this is going to be something that will get the others to lose trust in Dylan over time, something that Milchik probably wants. Keeping something to yourself in the climate that they're in is almost like you're asking to not be trusted, especially if it's got something to do with the Outies. So I feel we're definitely going to see that being something that ends up erupting. What is Cold Harbour? Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Mark was sitting there at his desk and he was giving his emotional response to the numbers that he was seeing on screen, and he was putting those numbers into folders that felt right. On his screen, his progress was at 68%, and then we saw the screen transform into a different one that said Cold Harbour on it. This screen had Miss Casey's face there, and the 68% was matching what Mark was doing. At the bottom of the screen, it had boxes with WO, DR, FC, and MA in them with different values on them. This stands for woe, frolic, dread, and malice, the 4 different tempers which make up a person. It seems like the numbers that Mark is sorting could be fundamental in what could be a new branch of Lumen. With Miss Casey no longer being on his floor and wellness looking like it's been shut down, could Miss Casey actually be getting tested on, and could this also be happening to several different people? Her heart rate was on screen, which showed that whatever Mark was doing on the computer was directly impacting her. We also know that Lumen doesn't really care that much about morals and the way Innies are treated, although the video saying that they listened to the employees and were focusing on making things better says otherwise. So them testing on innies is something that I wouldn't put past them. So I think Cold Harbour could well be a branch in Lumen which is focused on testing people. And that could actually be the purpose of what macro data management is. There's always been a focus on them not really knowing what they do and it all seeming pointless. But what if the twist is that they're actually dictating how people act due to the emotional pull that they get from what they do? Who is Miss Huang? Miss Huang was definitely an interesting character in this first episode. She was a young girl that was a supervisor and had a very mature mindset. She was locked in at work and she specifically mentioned to Mark that she wasn't his friend and that she was his supervisor. The baffling thing about her is the fact that she's so young and we've not seen a worker as young as her before. This left a massive question around her identity and how she ended up there. One theory that I think could be true is that she could be connected to Miss Cabell in some way. She has the same cold look as what she had, the same abruptness and tone that was familiar in Season 1. And as well, the words Miss Cabell got a large focus as the camera was switching between her and the computer monitor with Cabell's name on. So there was definitely some deliberate placement going on there. The way Milchik gave her a look as well was a bit suspicious too, so I'm looking forward to seeing more about this character in the coming episodes. The importance of colour. One thing that really does stand out to me in this show are the handful of colours that are used. White and blue are the two which are used the most, but there is also green and red. White was used a lot in this episode and the entirety of the opening scene encapsulates why it is. The never-ending corridors with all of the walls looking the same really encapsulates that office feeling and the feeling of being trapped, something that many people can feel when they're at work. There's no personality, no character, and it's mind-numbing. Again, exactly what certain workplaces can feel like. So I feel the show captures the overall tone of office life and working with the overuse of the colour white. The next colour that we saw being used a lot in this episode was the colour blue. The balloons were blue, the badges were blue. Every character wore blue in their outfit in some way, and Mr. Milchik's office is a haven for blue. Blue is most associated with calmness, relaxation, trust, and protection. The very opposite to everything that Milkshake stands for. So I feel it's used in a bit of an ironic way with him because he stands for the complete opposite of all of those things. But with colleagues having it in their outfits, I think that trust and comfort is supposed to be reinforced that way because they do all care for one another. Work-family matters. One thing that was particularly interesting in this episode was the whole dynamic of a work family, caring for others and the prospect of no longer existing if you chose to leave the Innie world, as that was something that was proposed to the group by Milchik. Irving was mourning the loss of Bert and the fact that on the outside he was married to another man and was happy, and it made him feel like he had nothing left to live for in his Innie world. So the idea of leaving, which was pretty much pulling the plug on yourself and not returning, was something which he was considering. However, the importance of the actual life that they had there was shown to have value. For example, we saw this when Mark was demanding that he be put back with Helly, Irving and Dylan, and he wasn't settling until he was. And we also saw it when Dylan pleaded with Irving to not leave because he was somebody that made him the person that he was. Work family is something that we've almost likely experienced in our jobs, and when people leave or you're put in a new team, it doesn't quite feel the same. So in this heightened world where work is the only life that the Innies get to live, this is their family, so its importance was overstated and made apparent. My review of the episode. I thought this was a great season premiere of the show. Considering it had been a while since Season 1 aired, I was concerned over how it would settle back in, but it picked back up in a perfect way and I was immersed back into the world with ease. The opening scene of Mark running was choreographed so well. The repeated motif of music, the abrupt moving camera angles and the sound effects really encapsulated the environment, the sense of panic and urgency, and that he was running through a maze of corridors where everything just looked the same. The awkwardness that was present in the first half of the episode when Mark was paired with the new colleagues was something that I thought was really humorous. I especially liked Mark W in that group. Milchik's personality is something that I really enjoy watching. He's so corporate that I just love it. The false smiles, the calm tone, everything about him just screams of somebody trying to climb the corporate ladder, and it stands out when compared to the main four characters because he's almost robotic. The camera angles and the way that this show looks is just gorgeous on the eye. It's glossy, it's smooth, and because the backdrop is genuinely just white, any splash of color tends to complement the visuals so well, and it always has some kind of meaning behind it. In terms of the characters, Irving was probably my favorite last season, and I feel like I could quickly see him becoming my favorite again. He's got such emotion, and his somber, calm state is something that does provide peace amongst the chaos there. Dennis never fails to make me laugh too, so he's probably a close second. This episode was definitely a confusing one, but it laid the foundations down well, and I imagine as the episodes go on, we'll definitely get more clarity. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So, there you have it. Severance Season 2, Episode 1, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on your favourite TV series and movies being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner. I'll be covering Severance every week, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video. What did you think of the first episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.